Mail is ecstatic. At last, crows its front page. Teacher is back in charge. Tories pledge to end classroom chaos and the obsession with pupils' rights. We have, however, had 2 London teachers saying, sure, Michael Gove is rolling out these so-called reforms and changes to delight the Daily Mail. They are invented to appease Daily Mail readers, and in fact there's never been a no-touch policy in a London school. They've always, 2 teachers, Nicola and Ollie, both independent of one another, one emailing, one phoning to say they've always been able to restrain pupils who were fighting or out of control. They've always been able to comfort pupils who were grieving or sad. This is simply attention-grabbing stuff. It's nothing more than that. You may, however, disagree. So very much taking your calls on any angle of this. If you're a teacher and you have been restrained, if you're a teacher and you have been told absolutely in no uncertain terms there's to be no touching of any pupil under any circumstances, if ever you should end up touching a pupil, you have to make a note of it, record it formally, etc., then you may welcome Michael Gove's innovations, or you may wonder whether they have any real weight to them at all. Let's go to Jamie Kelsey-Fry, a London teacher for 23 years and now contributing editor of New Internationalist magazine. Hi, Jamie, morning.
Good morning, Vanessa. It's lovely to be on your show.
It's delightful to have you on the show, sir. Tell me, we've had 2 teachers pretty much pouring scorn on this strategy, saying it amounts to nothing at all. It's a Daily Mail headline-winning ploy and nothing else.
Well, I'm sorry, I have to agree completely with them. It's just appeasing. As your teachers pointed out,
yes,
we've always had the right to restrain if young people are in danger of harming themselves or somebody else. And there's nothing that's changed there. I think what he said in his speech was that teachers wouldn't have to fill in reports each time that happens.
Yes.
But the implication is that he's trying to deal with poor behaviour in schools by using authority. And there's much better ways of dealing with poor behaviour than to be doing stuff like restraining young people.
Okay, so now our breath is baited. You say there are better ways, and we'd like to know which better ways do you have in mind?
Well, communication. If you imagine being an adult and
yes,
you're not being, well, in fact, you don't have to imagine being an adult, but as an adult, it's very frustrating not to be heard. And more often than not, by a long way, young people's behaviour is often to do with stuff that they're not able to communicate to people. Very often when you have a young person who's got very poor behaviour, if you sit down and listen to them, you'll find out there's all kinds of circumstances which are going on outside of school, which need to be addressed first. You can't just punish a young person without listening to them. It's outrageous.
Jamie, I understand what you're saying, but there'll be people thinking, well, this young person, has obvious issues at home. My kid needs a geography GCSE. So, the idea of the teacher sitting down and at length addressing the problems and the shortcomings of this other child's home life, it would be marvellous and terrific and wonderful, but not when my child still doesn't know a contour line on a map. Thank you very much. And you can see, the point of view. So the idea is, whatever's going on at home, however wretched the child's home life is, whatever issues are plaguing this poor kid, nevertheless, the child must sit still and be quiet in lessons, and then must find some way of talking about the problems or being heard afterwards, or by the school. I don't know exactly how, but not in the middle of another child's opportunity to learn.
Absolutely. If you have teachers who are really well trained, I'll give you a scenario. So you have 30 16-year-olds in your classroom, and one student is being very disruptive. Hopefully, more often than not, you've got a teacher support in the classroom as well. What I would do, what I've always done in the past, I've taught for 23 years, it's no problem at all to take that young person outside of the classroom and speak to them outside briefly, and let them know that at the end of the lesson or in the break, you will listen to them and find out why they're behaving like this and what the whole story is. It's very easy to see something about to erupt and calm it down by acting that way. It doesn't in any way stop the class learning if you deal with it correctly. But I think the implication from Michael Gove's speech is that it has to be discipline, authority, forcing respect from the teacher, from the students. And I think that's a very spurious path to go down, very dangerous indeed, particularly if he's backing it up with the idea of bringing in soldiers who do their jobs absolutely brilliantly, but there's no reason why they should suddenly be fantastic teachers. It's a very, very different skill indeed. We've all seen Jamie's Dream School. I think that's a really interesting example where you have brilliant experts on their subject, but it was very clear that it doesn't make them good teachers in the slightest.
Yes, it was fascinating, that programme, and it certainly proved that. It absolutely did. But question for you. I know that you can give an example, in fact, many examples of pupils who were disruptive at school, who weren't doing their homework, who weren't making any progress. And when you delved a little more deeply into their lives, it became quite clear why. And it wasn't because they didn't respect authority.
Absolutely not. So this is the story I discussed earlier on with your producer. Obviously, I won't name any names, but this is a very classic example. There was a school I was at years ago where there was, in my tutor group, there was a 16-year-old boy, and he came up to me and said, "Look, Mr. Fry, I'm being punished, put on detention almost every night for the past 2 weeks because I'm not doing my homework. I'm absolutely sick of it. No one's listening to me, and I know that you will. So I want to tell you why. My mother's a prostitute. When I come home from school, I have to leave the house at 5, and she has men in there until 3 in the morning. What do the teachers want me to do? Do my homework in the bus shelter where I always go to." So then I went and spoke to the teachers who'd been punishing him for 2 weeks and explained to them what's happening. 2 of them burst into tears, and they were young teachers who just started. And it shows that people have to listen to young people first rather than suddenly just reacting, you know?
Thank you very much indeed for joining us. That's Jamie Kelsey-Fry, a London teacher for 23 years.